Well, hello, my name is Chris, and this is Michaela Keats, and we've been married almost 12 years. When we first started out, Michaela and I both came from families that had a good bit of money, and it was hard for us in the beginning. When we first got married, we went from being in the house of families who had things to someone who had nothing. Not long after we became married, we became Christians. And to us, the idea of putting a tithe into the plate was you just go to church, you kind of judge how well the service was that week. If it was fairly entertaining, maybe that'd be about $10. If it wasn't so good, maybe $5. If it was a really good service, maybe we'd put in $20. But we eventually went to a financial class at our church, and it kind of gave us a new perspective on things. We started to really see that all the money that we had wasn't ours, it was God's. And we were just stewards of that money. And our tithe was simply giving some of that back to God so that we could put our trust in Him more and depend on Him more. And when we looked at the money that way, we became really convicted, and we made a commitment to change. We basically, at that point, also made a commitment to tithe at least 10% of our income. And it wasn't easy. We had a lot of fears. It was just the idea of giving up that much money. That sometimes was what we considered stuff that we needed. And having to kind of change and go from there, it was hard. And so we started learning how to pray a little bit for God to help us out. And Michaela, you want to tell them about what happened with your dress?
Sure. It was toward the end of the year, and Chris had a graduation celebration thing at his school. It was a formal event, and so all of my girlfriends were getting dresses and dressing up and that sort of thing. And I looked through my closet, and I had some dresses that I would teach in and that sort of thing, but nothing formal. So Chris and I went shopping and looked around at some different stores and priced out some dresses. And we didn't have money in the dress envelope to cover that. So I said, you know what, I'll use one of the principles of the class, and I'll pray and see if God will somehow send us some money or do something to where we can afford this dress. And if not, then I'll just wear what I've got in my closet. And I thought, there's no way. God doesn't care about that kind of stuff. He's not going to look down on me and see this as important. But the day after I had prayed that, I got a check in the mail from the University of South Florida, from which I graduated, 3 years before that? And they sent me a refund for the exact amount of a dress plus tax that I had my eye on. And so we figured that was God's way of saying, you know what, I want you to have this dress, go do it. So we stayed within our promise not to go into debt and put it on a credit card or anything like that. And I think God rewarded us for that. We also decided to, once he started making more money, to build this dream house, this custom home that we had dreamed of having for years and years. And so we did that, but in doing so, we became something that we like to call house poor, where we could live in this beautiful house, but we didn't have any money to really give to ministry, to go out and do fun things with our family or anything like that. We were just locked into this house. And so I started to become a little convicted about that and how we were throwing our money away into this big mortgage and not able to do anything else with the money. And shortly after that, we went to Haiti, and that was a huge eye-opener for us, because it completely turned us around financially, seeing how the people lived there, seeing how they got by from day to day with almost nothing, and just seeing how the missionaries would, just off a few $100s, would just be able to make it go so far. And we became convicted that, if we could maybe move into a smaller house, maybe we could have some extra money to help out these missionaries, or just do more with our money. And so I proposed the idea of moving to Chris, and he kind of dug his heels in at first. And I said, okay, I'm just going to sit back and pray about this and maybe hope that God would change his heart if that's God's will. And sure enough.
About the time I became ready to do it, the market was at its peak. And we made some good money on the profit of our house. We were there about 2 years, and we made a good profit. And it was amazing how, the timing just worked out. But you saw these Christian families in Haiti living in a little hut with a dirt floor and cardboard boxes to sleep on. And they had peace in their hearts. And to think, of the home that we had and how we were always stressing about money and everything else. And we said to ourselves, this is all self-imposed. We're doing it to ourselves. Why are we doing this? And after we moved, it was so good. And I think God had some foreknowledge there, because about a year later, I decided to step down from a job that I had, because I didn't want to buy the facility. and get into all that debt. And I lost like 20% of my income last year, and I don't think we would have made it if we hadn't have downsized. And I'm so thankful that conviction came to us in the timing that it did. So we've made some mistakes. We've had to struggle sometimes, but it's such a fun ride to be able to trust in the Lord and to give Him an opportunity to show His grace and His love in our life and kind of let Him take care of us. And to me, that is what tithing is all about. It's allowing God an opportunity to work in your life.